back to A Well-Designed Business. My name is Luann Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Window Works from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. If you are listening in real time, I've been saying that a lot lately. Today is the very last episode of 2022, and I want to take a moment to thank you for being here. This year, we accomplished some pretty incredible things that never would have happened without you. A Well-Designed Business turned 6 years old, about to be 7 this February, reached over 800 episodes, is nearing 6.5 million downloads. We started the other podcast, Window Treatments for Profit. My daughter's podcast, Sass Says, hit over 100 episodes, and I think 20 or 25,000 downloads. I mean, it's been incredible. And that doesn't add into Luann University that is just rolling, and so many incredible instructors there teaching you the skills you need to run the business end of your business. I am just so grateful for all of it, right? For the community, for our sponsors, for the podcast sponsors, for you, for showing up through the years. And trust me when I say 2023 is going to be even more insane. I'm just getting started over here. I hate to tell you, right? So to wrap up the year in the best way possible, I am sharing with you the conversation I had with Candice Olson way back in September 2016. If somehow you haven't heard of Candice, let me tell you about her. She's an interior designer, incredible designer, more than 25 years experience. She has a goal of showcasing the beauty, the business, and the behind-the-scenes world of interior design and renovation. She launched her first hit TV show, Divine Design, on HGTV. After 8 seasons of #1 ratings, Candice followed it up with a second show, Candice Tells All, that delved deeper into her unique design inspiration and process. It also became a #1 hit, leading the New York Times to herald her as the one to watch. Okay. With her shows broadcast in over 75 countries around the world, millions have come to know and love Candice's signature style and trademark sense of humor. She is considered to be a preeminent design authority and has authored a series of 6 best-selling interior design books. And if that isn't enough, she is a crack up. And I just had the best time during our conversation. It felt like we were friends forever and ever, just catching up over coffee. She is just so much fun. I'm happy to share this episode with you again. Enjoy. Hi, Candice. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hey, Luann.
So, Candice, I put it out there on Facebook that you were coming up and I was interviewing this week, and I got a barrage of comments. Everybody was so excited. So many people private messaged me, and other people just saying how much they admire you and your work. And so I just want to let you know that you got a lot of love out there with your colleagues and interior designers, and a lot of people that have admired the career that you've built and the design that you do, your aesthetic. You're a fabulous interior designer, and your down-to-earth approach, dealing with people, it's so evident on all of the programs, you know, the Divine Design show, and of course then Candice Tells All. So you know what we all want to know. We all want to know, how did you become Candice Olson, right?
Oh, yes, it was just an overnight success, don't you know, Luann?
Right?
No, it is the question I get asked all the time. Well, first of all, I back in the day, I graduated from design school in the lovely decade of lovely design, the 80s. You know, the earth was still cooling, and it was all, you know, Milli Vanilli and REO Speedwagon and, you know, all that era. what was it? Sponge painting,
Oh,
ivies, faux
yes.
ivies everywhere.
That's so funny. I'm totally there with you on that.
Yeah, big shoulder pads. So it's just right out there in the world of design. I was really fortunate to start working in around my second year of the 4-year program for a large commercial firm, doing a lot of contract work. We did a lot of retail. That segues into my love of lighting down the road. But a lot of retail, a lot of hospitality work. I was overworked and underpaid, as so many young people are. But it was just a great training ground. It really was. I was again, real fortunate, and I think hard work is always at the root of everything. Hard work and a little bit of luck. I had two of the senior designers from that firm left to go out on their own, and they took me and overworked me and underpaid me as their first employee. And boy, it was baptism by fire. But again, just great experience. High pressure. Just you name it. I had to do it, and then hiring people, and it was just a crazy time. Then, as luck would have it, they kind of went in their separate directions, and I took over a little bit of the business. And sort of fast forward 15 years, I was mostly doing commercial work, but people that have hotels and stores and all those sorts of things, they live in homes, and I started doing more of the residential side of the business. I had a residential project published, and that, you always talk about these tipping points. And so it was published in a national magazine, and that was great. I'll be honest, I didn't really particularly get any business, from that, but a local television show that's a Monday to Friday format, magazine format. So Monday is renovation and gardening, and Tuesday is therapy, which I also could have done that show. Wednesday is fashion, Thursday is design. They saw the article and they liked the story. It had kind of a quirky bent to it. They wanted to tour it for their show, for the design show for Thursday. And I said, great, fantastic. So they had their one of their on-camera designers was supposed to come on the day to sort of tour through it. And they fell ill or something. And anyway, so I gave them a lockbox to get in because I was on a job site, and they phoned in a panic and they said, we can't get in the lockbox. We don't have anyone on camera. Can you let us in so we can at least do some footage and go back and show the producers and to see if it's something that's worth rescheduling. It was kind of a weird turn of events. Yeah. Anyway, I literally show up and I've got like work boots. I'm covered in drywall dust. It's just, I look a red hot mess. So, and I think I hadn't slept in 3 days. We're under huge deadlines, and I'm just touring these people through, and I'm saying, this is what it was, and this is what it is. And I remembered like dropping the F-bomb even on this. Anyway, so they're like, great, got what we need. They go back and they show the producer, and she's like, oh, we love the project. We want Candice to go back and, retour it once she's all cleaned up and without the F-bomb. Long story short, that led to me doing a weekly show for them, where and it was really that's where the promotion started. There was a great reach with television. It aired locally, but then a week later there was a delay where it would air across Canada, only in Canada at the time. And that was a great way of promoting the business. So I would do that show every week. It was it was pretty easy because I had to do a field segment, and I was on the sites, more often than not. But people really loved seeing the projects, from the beginning right through to the end. We kind of carry them through, and then just put the little flower in the vase at the end of the massive renovation. I did that for 7 years.
Wow.
In that time, I met my husband, who is a builder. And he was one of my, contractors that I was kind of trying out. And, hint, hint, ladies, if you find a good one, you just grab them and marry them because you can't get, good builders. Anyway, so we were showcasing the projects that we were working on together. Our business grew. We had a great thing going. And then I had a kind of an offer from from W Network here in Canada. They were a new network starting up, and they wanted a flagship design show. And they said, "We'd love, did you ever think about doing your own show?" La la la. And I said, "No." It was everything I could do to just keep, keep myself going with what we were all doing. Then they said, "We'd love you to do a show," but then they handed me kind of the format of what they were thinking about. And this was in an era, if you think back, this is, 15 years ago, where it was, here's $20 and 24 hours and some cabbage leaves and some tinfoil and go and renovate your neighbor's basement, that kind of thing.
Right? Yeah.
And I thought, you know what, that isn't, I worked so hard for what, we had at that point. I knew that wasn't design. I didn't want to, I wanted to, it just wasn't something I wanted to get involved with. They went away. Then they came back and, like all smart people, they said, "We know you don't want to do a show, but if you did, what would it look like?" And then we started to talk about concepts like, I wanted to show great design, real clients. I wanted to show the trades. I wanted to, really champion them because they really are my calling cards.
Right.
That said, I wanted to showcase, what a crazy business, this really, really is. And to show that, the fun and frivolity that happens, the craziness, but, really in the end, showed great design, great projects, and especially for what I felt was on television at the time, I wanted to elevate it, to really show what the profession was all about. And that's how we started filming in Canada. HGTV picked up the show the following year, and it just all grew from there. So it certainly wasn't something that was, I wanted to be on TV, and how can I do it? It just was a big, crazy accident.
Okay, so but accident, not quite though. So let me just break it down a little bit. Here's a couple of things. First of all, the number one thing, the article that gets into the magazine about the residential job, how did that happen? Did you submit that, or that was an invitation and that was a little stroke of luck?
I submitted that.
You say, okay, so this is what I'm saying. It's a crazy accident that has a lot of, everything stems from being proactive. So here's what I'm here. You know what? You have a great a design that residential design that comes out beautifully. You don't just admire it, leave, thank them, take their check, and buy them a bottle of wine and and say goodbye. You professionally photograph it and you submit it to a magazine. Okay, that's number one, because we tell designers all the time, please photograph your work. It can't go if you want to go somewhere. Look, there's a lot of designers that are happy to do their work and move on to the next job and have a whole life like that. Okay, but for the designers that want to build a platform, this is step one. Okay, and then from that, here's what I love about all that is that you're you. Okay, so that part of it, when you go and walk the crew through and you're in your work boots and stuff, and even that, everybody is them. You were authentic, and they looked at that and they said, you didn't, overthink it. You didn't say, I'm in work boots, I can't do this with you, even though it wasn't being filmed for air. There's a lot of people that stand in that moment and go, oh no, I couldn't do that. So, you just stood up and went, you know what? Yeah, it's my job. Let me walk you through it. You were you, and you brought the real Candice, and that spoke to them. And then the other thing that happened is so now you do the weekly thing. That's awesome. But then when they ask you to do a show, you don't like the show. And you don't go, I have to do it anyway. You listen to your inner voice and you say, you know what? That's really not, I'm a full-fledged, talented interior designer that understands the design process isn't just 25 minutes on a TV show, like you said, with tinfoil and a cabbage patch road. It's a real process with real people and real trades that are doing things. And you stand in your space and you say, no, thanks. And then they come back anyway. And I love that. And so here's what I want to say is that, yes, accidental, lucky, but the thing is that you have to be ready to be lucky. And you had 15 years of hard training in those positions where you said they were demanding. And at any point in those positions that first position that was demanding, you could have said, hey, you're working me too hard and not paying me enough money, and left. Instead, you cut your teeth and you learn things. So yes, okay, lucky and everything else. But you know what? You were ready to be lucky by being prepared, right?
For sure. I mean, it's a lot of hard work, but it was the hard work, those doors of opportunity. There was a knock, and when there's that knock, you open it.
That's right.
We don't hide and say, come on in and jump in and really jump in. I'll be honest, the TV side of it petrified me. To retool our whole business, so that I wouldn't have that flexibility. That was terrifying. We'd worked so hard to get to the level that we were at, that, they were asking me to really go in a complete different direction. So I knew if I was going to make that sort of a commitment, and what I thought at the time might be a sacrifice, who knew how this could go? It could be, I was so protective, even of the trades that I brought onto the show, because I've worked so hard to develop this, all these wonderful relationships, but the producers and the network wanted, as much as I was authentic, they wanted authentic trades as well. And I'd always talked about this great relationship I had with my trades. So they said, well, it just seems obvious that, you're going to have them on as well. And I thought, well, what if this goes horribly wrong? I have to go back and really work with these guys every single day.
Or what if somebody starts stealing them? They're so busy they can't do your work.
Exactly what I'm talking about. Yes, and you can only marry one of the contractors like I did. And it just gets really weird,
You can't lock them all up.
I was really scared, about the whole thing. So I did say, I want to keep my trades for myself on, outside of the show, and sort of like a little offshoot of this. People that know my old show, Divine Design, there was lighting to me was such an important thing to show on Divine Design, and the producers were auditioning tradesmen for all of the other roles, but they could not find the right person to fulfill the role, the authentic role of an electrician. And they said, no other show really does this. And if you think this is so important, that you really got to help us out. So, I hope Chico doesn't listen to this. But so I'd worked for years, especially in the contract side of things, with my electrician at the time, Chico. So I phoned Chico, and at that time the shooting requirements were about 1.5, 2 days a week, which is a big chunk of time for any professional that's running a business of their own. Chico had a very large a business of his own to tend to. Anyway, so I phoned Chico and I said, okay, Chico, I'm doing this show. I would love for you to be on it. Here's the commitment. And there was this pause, and he's got a very thick accent. He says, well, Candice, let me think about it for a while. Okay, as long as it does not air in East LA. And I'm like, oh, what the hell does that mean? But at that time, we're only shooting in Canada. I'm like, no chance in hell is it going to air anywhere else.
Famous last words, right?
So, and what's funny is I remember saying to the producers, well, I have a guy, but he's Filipino, Italian, he's got long black hair with blue streaks, rides a Jesse James bike, and you really can't understand a word he's saying. And they went, perfect. And it was the biggest hit. Like, people still ask me about Chico, but he was the only one of my original trades brought to the show, originally. So
isn't that funny? Oh my goodness, that's funny. Now,
LA thing means, but I know he did spend some time down there, and he does ride really nice Jesse James chopper. So you put two and two together.
Exactly.
He's still alive.
Oh my God, that's hysterical. I love it. So that's actually an aspect of making a decision to do that. It wouldn't have occurred to me, but you're right. Like, you're looking at all of your trades, and of course, not for nothing, like you said, who's going to like start making them so busy that they can't work for you? Number two, if they're on set 1.5 days a week, they can't be doing your other. Well, I guess, but I think I understood your projects were your projects on the show, right? You filmed your projects, right? It wasn't like you were doing something else and then your trades would be doing a different project, right?
We would do about 50-50.
Okay.
Because there were certain network fulfillments that had to be met that I couldn't, based on with my own clients.
Okay.
And I'll be honest, even going forward, doing a renovation at the best of times is hell.
Yeah.
You throw a television schedule and TV cameras and all that, the gear and gack and bodies into the mix, and you have to be crazy. So it was, I really tried to, not have my clients involved. We would do casting for people that were, actually looking to do this work. So they were, real clients. I just couldn't, I didn't want my clients completely to get involved with this craziness. It really is invasive, intrusive, obnoxious.
Yeah, it's almost like anything else. It's, those people involved, those clients have to really want to do it. They're motivated to do it too, as opposed to like, Candice, really, I just wanted you to design my living room. Thank you. Right. Go home. Right. Oh, no. Yeah.
So there was a full-time casting person that was brought in to actually look at, at homeowners that were entertaining this sort of work. So the homeowners would actually submit. People always say, like, how do you get on the show? Homeowners would submit their projects. We've got, and it's, here's my problem, and we have no idea how to solve it. Mm-hmm. So that, in a nutshell, we would get thousands and thousands and thousands of people, and more importantly, here's our budget. Like, it had to be it's all realistic, realistic projects. But it would be, thousands of applications. We had to narrow it down to 26. The network wanted to see a variety of projects, a variety of budgets, diversity in architectural diversity, because we only shot our show in Toronto, which people are amazed.
Oh, yes, I am too.
Right. Well, there was some talk of having us, because this is what shows did back in the day, travel.
Right.
And we couldn't do that because I just gotten married. People recall I seemed to be pregnant all the time on the show. Those were repeats. I only have 2 children, but, and we all had businesses that and that's the thing, we have authentic trades that are running their own businesses. So I can't have them pack up their business, be away from their families. I didn't expect to do that. And I thought, I don't see the value in that. So right. We said we can, and even to do the level of design that we showcased, I needed all of my local resources. Mm-hmm. How would I do that? And there were just so many things that just said, we can't do what people are loving about this show. We can't do this on the road, and we wouldn't be able to, stay in business and married.
Yes. Well, and it also sounds like what you're describing is that you were happy to do it and enjoy it and all of that stuff. But it's sort of like what you said when you turned down the first option for the concept they'd have, that at the heart of it is quality interior design. You're not just, because the other, like what you're describing, in order to go on the road and the obstacles that you described with finding trades and being able to do quality design, basically at that point, it sounds like in order to achieve a show like that, you're basically putting the entertainment first and the design probably about fourth. You know what I mean? And God forbid, family and husband, they're 10th or 11th on the line in that regard. But, I admire you. I think that's really cool because, you were happy to let this new chapter develop in your life and let this new avenue open up for you and for your business, but that, you really still were just like, yeah, but we're really designers here. It's not a game,
And at the end of the day, I knew that this show would end and we would still have to keep on doing what we're doing.
Right.
So,
you weren't going to go on and have the Candice talk show and now you not even a designer anymore. What you truly wanted was your design career.
Right. And the TV side of it, I mean, I'll be honest, because I'm not doing it now. It really, that part of it for me is a real grind. It wasn't the most enjoyable thing. I don't, I started doing the show, what was it, when I was 37. So, I did it for 12 years, like trying to keep yourself like, oh, the poor makeup artist. He is the true star of the show. The polyfill it, dry, sand, repeat, clip the hair clip-ins, the push-up, like, hi, babe. Like,
and just having to keep yourself together for that long, right? Forget what they do. You still do your sit-ups and you have to eat, fruit instead of Snickers bars. Let's be real.
Thanks can only take you so far. Anyway, but it was, it is what I miss is the crew. Like it was just like that big, dysfunctional family that I love so much. But I never considered myself to be a TV person. Like I said, it just kind of was something that followed me around while I did the work, and that's kind of how I looked at it. But it, that part of it, the TV side, and the people that are still, doing it, and you have to really love it.
Yes,
the TV side of it. And I love the design, the TV side of it. No, I'm not sure if I was ever, well, after doing it 12 years, but if I was ever cracked up to do that sort of thing.
Well, it sounds like, somebody else might have had the opportunity, and within the opportunity, whether immediate or through the process, might have legitimately thought, oh, you know what, I can walk away from design if I can parlay this into something else TV wise. But you were very clear what your goals were. Your goals were to stay very well grounded and connected with your husband and your children, and also to maintain that connection with your business. It wasn't that you were like, hey, this is great. Like, the heck with being a designer. I'll just be whatever they can reinvent me to be next. So, it comes from, and probably it was a gift for you to have the opportunity, like you've mentioned at 37, where, you're kind of cooked and you kind of know yourself and you know your priorities, and you're not going to get sucked into some like, oh my God, what could this be? And then you wake up and you've blown your marriage, and you got, brats for kids instead of wonderful people. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because you get carried away and lose your direction and lose your center. But it's very obvious in talking to you that was never a possibility, that you always had your center and what was important for you, both personal and professionally. That's great. I admire that. That's awesome.
Well,
Very cool.
Then you throw a couple of, I was 37 when I started. I had my first child at 39, my second at 41. You throw the kids into it, and then everything just blows up.
Yes, yes. I didn't realize the kids were, I guess so. If you're seeing you pregnant on the show, that's like, wow. Now you're running a business, you're doing the TV show, and you have infants. That's insane.
Well, what was really funny was because back in when I had Piper, when I was pregnant with Piper, that was the early days of the show. We were so, the show was finding its legs and gaining its momentum, and we were really understaffed. So I'm about 95 months pregnant, about 300 pounds over my fighting weight, and my water is literally going to break any second now. And I remember, like, I'm having to help some of the carpenters or something, like carrying an armoire, and I'm going, people, what's wrong here?
Does anything strike you as not right with this picture?
my producer, who I love dearly, but she said, oh, the viewers will love to see that.
My OBGYN, on the other hand, might be like calling me up, yelling at me, right?
Oh, but you know what? I'm really, really lucky. I mean, especially, we got pregnant right away. I didn't have a lick of morning sickness. We shot like every single day through both pregnancies, right up until the end. With the second, with my son, it was a great pregnancy, except I could not eat enough bacon on set. It was the most disgusting thing. I think pork bellies like shot through the roof.
Yuck.
It was just bacon,
Yuck.
morning, noon, and night. It was disgusting. At least a pound a day.
That's so gross, Candice.
and then it became a big joke, where people would bring me like the bacon chocolate bars and all that stuff. Oh. Anyway, so. But I'm really lucky. We just did it, right?
Yes.
It's like anything, when someone says do that, you got to get it done. And if I'm going to wait around for someone else to do it, we're never going to get out of here. So grab that armoire and have your water break, off the clock. Has to be that.
Oh my God, that's awesome. That's so funny. I have to say, the one show I thought was so funny, and I thought, I can't wait because I had obviously seen the show before, heard of it, everything else, but getting ready for the interview, I was like devouring it on YouTube, obviously. But one that I hadn't seen before and I thought was really cool. I just said, oh, me and this girl are going to get along just fine. You were saying how you were in a showroom and you were walking and you were like, you saw a little nook or like a space and a piece of furniture and on a dining table, and you're like, this would have been awesome when I was a kid because I hated peas. And I used to take a pea and put them and shove. Oh, you were saying that how you did it on your own furniture, your mother's thing, you would shove the peas down. And I just cracked up because I hate peas too. And my mother served us peas every other night from the time I was like 5 until I was like 12. And my brother and I both hated peas, and we literally swallowed our peas every other night like they were vitamins. We would, because she would not make them. We would not chew them. Yeah. And I thought, oh, I should have looked for a piece of furniture to shove them down.
Oh yes, hollow table legs with a crack in the harvest table. Oh my God! But it eventually comes back to haunt you because a certain amount of pile up of squishy peas.
Oh my God, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, there's always a little smell that comes with that. I was busted.
I literally cracked up. I thought, oh yeah, her and I are going to be just fine. We're going to get along just great. Oh man. All right. So let me take a break to tell everybody about Kravet Inc. And then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about your collaborations with Kravet and all of the other products that you have on the market, your Candice Olson collections. Okay. So hang on one second. Okay. My great thanks to the featured sponsor of our podcast, Kravet Inc., featuring CuratedKravet.com. CuratedKravet.com is your go-to resource for the finest in lighting, bedding, pillows, rugs, wall accessories, and so much more. Do yourself a favor and visit CuratedKravet.com today to see what I'm talking about. And when you are there, be sure to get on the Kravet Inc. email list so you get all the latest news about all the newest pieces which are constantly being added for you to use on your interior design projects. You can also see the gorgeous rooms that have been curated for you by leading interior designers such as Elizabeth Lamont and Candice Olson and Denise McGahey, to name just a few. And once you try it, wait until you experience the simplicity of the ordering process. Design, click, delivered. It's really that easy. Now, just for you, listeners of the podcast, a gift from Kravet Inc. You get to enjoy 10% off any one purchase at CuratedKravet.com. Just enter the code CKPodcast at checkout and save 10% on the entire purchase. Isn't this so generous of Kravet Inc. to give to us? So now go over to CuratedKravet.com today and see for yourself this valuable resource for you and your interior design business. All righty. So I'm a little afraid to start talking about Kravet Inc. because you have a very 10-plus year history with Kravet, is it at this point?
This is true. It's one of my oldest licensing relationships,
yes.
Oldest and best.
Yes, and see, that's why my brain is like, if she's been with them that long, then she really likes them. And my listeners know by now that when I have a guest on that also has had the great fortune to work with Kravet, I get like a little bit like a little girl starstruck because I adore Kravet Inc. I truly do. I adore the management that they have, and I love the way they run everything. So I'm going to just jump off here and take an assumption that if you've done 3 collections with them and you've done Curated Kravet and it's a 10-plus year, collaboration, that you're probably a fan as well.
No, it is like I said, the relationship started about 10 years ago, and I just you think of fabric companies that are still with us, that have many have come and gone, but they've stood the test of time for generations now. And I think they really have their recipes for success. It combines a passion for fabric and textiles. They really and they really understand designers and their business needs, and they adapt to those needs. And I can't imagine being with any other company. It really has been such a joy to work with them. We're on our third collection. It takes out third collection over 10 years.
Yes.
I always say good design takes time, but with fabric and kind of trying to top, we've had two very successful collections. Now the challenge was, how do we top the success of the previous collection? How do we come up with something new and exciting and fresh and current, but still stay true to what people and designers really loved about the previous collections?
It's a great question, Candice. How do you do that? The books, the latest collection is gorgeous. I have them in my showroom. Every single time I'm going to source memos for a client, Kim and I both go right to your books. We love the collection. And I had Mary Fisher on the show too. Her collection is also just rock star. But so that's a great question. How do you do that? I know that you personally have expressed often enough that you get inspiration from nature, and of course it is apparent in your collections, but it just baffles me. How does somebody sit down and think about a fabric design? Like, how does that work? How does that collaboration go? What is it like when they come to you and say, let's do the next collection? How does that happen?
Well, with this collection, we have a couple of things. We have a long history with York wall coverings, and several of there's such a close relationship with wall coverings and the pattern work and the palette with wall coverings and fabric. It's kind of a natural relationship. So we've got a bit of a litmus test with the success of some of our wall coverings. So you'll see our best sellers that we've worked into our fabric collection, our recent fabric collection. So there's that element. Nature, again, like you spoke about, I always say there's no bigger influence on the work that I do than what is arguably the best designer, architect, artist of all time, and that's Mother Nature. Especially when it comes to developing palettes. There's a huge, and I think people will appreciate the livable luxury and the everyday elegance and this contemporary classic element in all the work that I do. There's a real nod to the past, but in a very stylized contemporary way, and I think that's what it really grounds a lot of the collections, and then. I think people have probably known or become to know that lighting is a huge element in the work that I do. Not just the physical lighting of the space and the whole lighting design, but the reaction of light on a surface. And whether we're talking about wall coverings or fabrics, particularly with this collection, a lot of time and energy and effort is put into coming up with unique and interesting and contemporary ways to infuse these fabrics with light. And I think that's what really ultimately it can take this classic look and make it very fresh and current and exciting and very today. So you'll see fabrics that are infused with a little bit of sparkle. You'll see metallics, which just are so fantastic, pearlized elements injected as well. So there's always that little element of surprise that you don't typically think of or come to know fabrics for. Right, but I think that was you'll see that particularly in this collection, a real nod to lighting and the effects of lighting as it falls on these fabrics.
It's really something. How does it? So, for instance, what's the labor, the labor of work that goes into it? So Kravet calls or you call and say it's time for the third collection. Is it 1 year in the making, 2 years in the making? What's that trajectory from the time that you say, okay, yeah, I'm going to start thinking about it, start looking for inspiration, start thinking about designs, till you're in their studio and you're really working with mock-ups and things?
This collection was, I'm going to say, about 2 years of full development, and I will be brutally honest. And Alice and Scott Kravet and everybody there will say the same thing. It was it was a challenging process for all the reasons that I said before. We had these incredibly successful collections. So how do you come up, with the next? So we brought, our pattern work. We're doing our initial meetings where we've got patterns and our palettes. If it's 2 years in the making, when it hits, what will make it current, at that point, because then it's got to be very, now. So we're finessing and reworking and editing and adding, and then something new would come along. And then sometimes we would just like throw out everything, and we come back from meetings and I just go, oh my gosh, but, again, good design takes time. There was an awful lot of reworking, finessing concepts until they were absolutely perfect. Several meetings. What was so exciting is as you started to see, all the strike-offs come in, and you're going, oh my gosh. So that was worth all the effort of I'm just reworking it, retooling it until it's 100% perfectly, exactly the fabric. Then we start to go crazy, because this was going to be we were looking at one, maybe 2 books, and we've got everything laid out on tables and tables. The whole the Kravet offices are just, it's you come
studio. I'm telling you, I brag about it all the time. I shouldn't say brag about it. I go gaga about it all the time.
So and we're laid out, on how this is all coming together, and we've got we've got unbelievable fabrics sitting on the table. Some keynote fabrics. We've got this beautiful onyx is the name of the fabric, or it's a marbleized pattern with the pearl inks on this were just off the chart. So we're seeing unbelievable. We're like giddy, and we have to edit this down now. Oh. We have to edit it.
It's like picking which kid you're not going to keep, right? Like, come on.
So then we can't. We're there's Scott and Alice and myself, and we're just anyway. We have to vet it through some other people at Kravet, and then it's even worse because they come in, and then it was Kerry Kravet comes in. He says, "How many books are you looking at?" And we said 1 or 2, and he goes, "What? This is 6 books." Oh. And we're like, what? Anyway, long story short, we managed to bring this down to 4 books. Right. So, here we start with, it's such an effort and a chore. It's like any project, right? The beginning is just getting it all, started and, off the ground is the hard part. And then, but the finessing, and when it's all coming together, and it's just, everybody was just, giddy with excitement. So
it's so exciting. I could picture you guys, the whole process,
We almost came to, I could have slugged Scott. Likewise. And but it's that kind of a great, working relationship that, they bring years and years of expertise to the table, and I feel really fortunate that they, we look at it from a design perspective, but we also look at it from a business perspective. There's incredible value in the collection. It's beautiful. It's great value, beautiful workmanship, hand in hand. So it's really a labor of love, and I thought the last collection was great. It's like being Adele, right? Like, how do you top the last bit?
That's so funny. But and there's truth in what you just said there, that, it has to be rooted in business. You can't just create beautiful, fabulous fabrics that are not sellable, that people cannot imagine having in their spaces, or they can, but they're out of a price point that makes it unreachable. So I got to believe, on top of the giddiness and the joy of the collaboration of the actual design process, that the business side of it's got to probably be some very hard decisions, because you might have an idea, and maybe the way that you're going to infuse a particular fabric with light requires another process or a different, thread or a different material. And now maybe it prices it out of the range that the book is supposed to be in or something. Like, that's got to be tough all along the way, those sorts of decisions.
That's where the expertise of the Kravets comes into play, though, because, I'll say this is what we want it to look like. Okay, price-wise, how can we get there? Right. Price and quality wise, how can we get there? And that's where those ideas start to percolate. Again, going back to our wall coverings, it's really fantastic to actually have a hard sample of, because our wall coverings, I have the same approach. Here we've got a glitter or glass bead or a metallic element. So they know, they know the look that we're after. And then they're always kind of percolating the fabrication techniques and where in the world, because they know everybody in the world, what mill is the perfect mill to produce what we want at a certain price point. And I think that's what designers loved about the last collection too. It is a high end look without having that price tag.
Right. It's definitely a usable price point. That's what's really with what, like you said, you feel like you didn't even consider yourself what the price point was. The fabrics are amazing. They're absolutely gorgeous. So, and then I guess one other question, because the business part always intrigues me, is the difference between, the decision to do 2 books to 4 books or whatever it becomes. That also is probably well rooted in a money decision, I would think, right? And so that's why, was it that you and Scott and Allison are, sort of, what are we going to do? And Carrie comes in and he's just like, okay, go for 4. Is it because they have to consider what it costs to produce that? Is that the point?
Yeah, but the production of the books is incredibly labor and intensive and very expensive. So it's not a commitment that they venture into lightly.
Yes, and so you need all of the family and all of the decision makers on board with the value of doing it. Otherwise, because look, I'm sure if the line didn't have value, and if they didn't believe, whoever's ultimate decision it was, didn't believe that it was a good business decision, I'm sure there would have been that one person in the room and said, look, I love them all too, but you get 2 books. Stop thinking about it, right?
And a lot of us, it happens internally, I think, at Kravet too. They have other lines and that are launching as well. So
right,
it's all, I'm part of the family, but
right. There's a big collection. They have the Kate Spade going on and Mary Fisher. They have other things, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. And then of course the 2 rooms that you did for Curated Kravet, the Park Avenue Parlor and the Nature Nurtured. Oh my God. Number one, both so amazingly, meticulously, designed, but then so completely different, all using Curated Kravet products. I mean, it's just, it's spectacular. How was that experience? Did you like doing that?
Well, I really wanted to. I think that's one of the great things about curatedkravet.com. It really, it brings you the best of the best, and there's such diversity in what in the products that are offered. And I know just from being a working designer that. I'm all about creating these very personalized spaces for my clients, and every person is different, so every space is very different, and that's where curatedkravet.com comes into play. I wanted to really show designers how the diversity in the line, so that you can create these diverse looks for very diverse clienteles. And so that was a real goal of mine right from the get-go. There's so many great things about it. I mean, I do love, and every designer knows, that we have so many tools and online showrooms, and we're inundated every day with choice. And I love that Curated kind of weeds out all the noise and just brings you what is truly beautiful, truly meaningful. So it's this very artistically edited selection. but I also love, like, I mean, everybody knows, the business is not 9 to 5, and I can't, tell you how many times I'm up at 2 o'clock in the morning, trying to source. And the fact that I could sit there and have a glass of wine at the same time is even better. When we're coming up with the rooms too, with a Kravet, we're talking about the difficulty that designers have in finishing off that last 10% of a project. You've got all the broad strokes, elements in a room. And that's where I think curatedkravet.com really comes into play. You can do it's the icing on the cake. It's the jewelry on the black, dress. It's that last 10% to really complete a project. I think it'll be a big hit with designers, or it is a big hit with designers.
Yes. Well, it's funny because Will Hunt Lewis was on the program, and he's, of course, the director of CuratedKravet.com. And that was one of the things that he particularly mentioned as well, that he was particularly happy and proud about, that you literally, exactly as you said, take it to completion. You can do the accessorizing and the final beautiful touches, not just the big pieces of furniture, sofa, tables, and okay, now you have to go somewhere else to finish everything up. I asked you, obviously, I didn't ask you before we talked on air. I put you right on the spot. But I did it because I often, CuratedKravet.com, Kravet Inc. is offering all of the listeners to the podcast 10% off their first purchase or a purchase if they were a previous purchaser. And I often wonder how many of my listeners are taking advantage of it. And I just feel like that I would love to be able to be part of the discussion that dispels the myth that everything is only for whatever end of interior design, that there's all different price points on there. And when you put a room together like Park Avenue Parlor or Nature Nurtured, there are so many items in those rooms. There's no way that they're all, crazy expensive. There's definitely items in those rooms that every designer out there could just use that one special vase or that one special lamp at the $400 price point to, enhance their design. Don't you agree with that? I'm totally just hitting you over the head with that.
No, there's something for every project, for every client, for every price point on CuratedKravet.com. There really is. The breadth of the product line, in so much that what I love is that the edit, how finely, artistically, and skillfully it's edited. There truly is something for every project and price point.
Yes. Okay. Well, I thank you for agreeing with me, because I feel like everybody knows that I'm not an interior designer. I'm a window treatment specialist. And I wonder if sometimes my listeners are like, whatever, Luann, what do you know? I'm like, well, let's see what Candice thinks.
Well, and even designers love to see what other designers are doing. I love pulling up, the rooms that everybody else has. There's some gorgeous rooms. Let's have this room. I love it.
I know. Have you heard of the new thing that they're doing? Will Hunt told us about it on his show about a month ago, the style swap. Have you heard about that?
Yes, I have.
Isn't that going to be so much fun? I can't wait for that.
And so they're just great. Not product aside, there's and that's again going back to Kravet. They're just really great at engaging designers, inspiring designers, and pulling it all together with beautiful fabrics. Again, with service and price points, and it's just a recipe for win-win-win.
Exactly. Totally agree. So tell us a little bit about some of your other collections outside of Kravet and Curated Kravet before you go. I know that you are designing rugs and lighting and furniture with Highland House and Century. Do you want to share a little bit about that information so if designers want to see those collections, they can find them as well? Lighting was my first license years ago, and I think that just spawned from. I think I was the only designer on TV I really wanted to educate people about lighting, and I always say it doesn't matter how much time, energy, or money that we put into this project, it's all wasted if we do not have good lighting. And I do lighting seminars all over, showing
Even if we're talking about budgets, how you can take a $3 a yard fabric and make it look like it's $3,000 a yard, with beautiful lighting that brings up the texture and sculpts it. And conversely, you can have a, $3,000 a yard fabric that looks like it's $2. But so lighting was one of my first licenses. We are relaunching. This is exciting news. Relaunching my lighting with Surya, and so we're have our lighting and our quite an extensive carpet line with Surya all together. So that's what's new and exciting there.
That is nice.
I have a very extensive furniture collection with Highland House and my outdoor furniture collection, which was really fun. And it's so beautiful and unusual, and oh my gosh, it's with Century. So. Yes. Unusual finishes, beautiful teak, and sort of the same approach to lighting and the effects of lighting brought into some very interesting outdoor finishes. So pearlized finishes, metallic finishes that are just something that you wouldn't see. And I always talk about outdoor furniture as really, it could migrate indoors and outdoors, not so much on the seasons, but more so on your personal tastes. So that was a very fun project as well. I have quite an extensive, this is several years now, a bedding collection that is available through Dillard's, is our main retailer. And what am I missing now? York
wallpaper. You talked about that, right?
Yeah, that really, that's such a fantastic relationship. And what's really exciting, that those bestsellers and the kind of the designer favorites that have migrated into the fabric collection for Kravet, those wall coverings are now available through the Kravet showroom.
Oh, isn't that fun? That's smart.
Yeah, so that's really exciting. But we're working on. We've just finished our 12th wall covering book with York. We have it's been incredibly successful, and it's branched off into a commercial line, which I really love, because when I was doing commercial and contract work back in the day, I wish this collection.
Right, it's always so boring and straightforward and.
I'm really, really proud of that collection. It's available through MDC, and again, because that world is interesting. It's not particularly pattern driven, but then designers say, we want, you're trying to please a lot of people, but we have wonderful palettes, and that same attention to how light reacts, interesting glitter and shimmer and pearls and foil techniques that have made it really, really just a smash hit with the contract and commercial crowd. So really, really happy about that. And then the latest and the latest collection with Kravet. I think designers have come to, they love that livable luxury and everyday elegance of the past collections. So they'll recognize that, but they'll see how we've pushed it and grown it and evolved it into something that is very current and fresh and today. And I think everybody that sees it agrees that it's just the best collection to date. It's just, we're all so excited about it.
It's so much. It's so exciting, too. And I can hear your enthusiasm in your voice. It's very nice. The only thing that crosses my mind as you actually are describing, the depth of the different licensing projects that you have, I'm thinking to myself, just the process that you describe with actually coming up with the 4 books for Kravet. I'm like, wait, now we've got wallpaper, carpet design, lighting design, bedding design. When do you design?
Well, I'll be honest.
It's insane.
that side, the residential side has, I mean, I never had a licensing business before, when I started my design
Yes.
business. So that I've scaled that back.
Yes, it almost would
Right.
have to, right? I mean, because it's either that or you have to farm out your kids and your husband. I mean, it's one or the other, right?
Well, and my husband and I, just on a personal level, years ago when I first, again, because I think I shot the first show, we got married that weekend and it was just blam, 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 all this stuff happened. And then, we had two kids. Um, how that happened, I know how it happens, but where we found the 2 minutes and 40 seconds for that to happen, I have no idea. But we kind of sat down as a couple and said, because I knew I couldn't sustain the schedule, because with TV you have no flexibility. It was 7 to 7 every single day, and in 12 years of shooting, or I missed one day, and it's because I was taken to the hospital, in an ambulance. But there just is no sick days.
My God.
And I also thought, this isn't. We had young children. I remember nursing them on set, and then Piper spitting up in my hair extensions. And what a life!
Just telling it all now, folks.
We said, when they were babies. I'll be honest. With that schedule, you would come. I'd see them in the morning and then see them at night, and I said, this is just no way to raise a family. But we knew that, once they get to that age where, and I see it now. I've got a 10 and a 12-year-old daughter. Say no more, right? It's
Right,
all
exactly.
drama.
And that's hands-on. You got to be there for her.
You got to be there, and that's when. So that has become more of the focus, and the licensing, the design of it. If I'm designing at 3 o'clock in the morning or 3 in the afternoon, now it's on my terms. I have the flexibility to get the kids to soccer and hockey and skating and volleyball and piano and that kind of
Right.
thing.
So what you're saying is as difficult and as time consuming as it is to not only develop the 4 books like for Kravet, but the other things, they're not driven by the client who can only see you at 2 o'clock on Tuesday when you're supposed to take her to piano lesson. You're able to move that around the lifestyle of your family easier. So they're still very intense and there's still a lot of deadlines and pressure, but you've backed down the actual one-on-one design a little bit, and this is sort of, is the business platform now, it sounds like you're saying.
Well, and it only took 25 years.
Aw, you see?
But it's true, and I completely I think designers are and I keep going back to curatedkravet.com because we're all everyone's working and firing on all cylinders and expected to do so much more with so much less these days. So having a tool like Curated, where it's just a go-to that allows you to work so much more efficiently. I know we talk about design and the beauty of it, but the business of design is you're running a business.
Right.
I always tell people it is not a hobby. This is a business.
You sound like me. That's my exact line. It's not a hobby.
It's not a hobby. And I want my clients to know that, from the get-go. I have to respect their time, but I expect the same in return, and they're going to get an invoice at the end of it.
Exactly.
But no, we are, it's a service industry, and finding the time to quote unquote, do it all, have your business, especially as a working mother, and have your business, have a happy home life, and, kids that aren't on Dr. Phil every day. It is a juggle. And people always say, how do you do it all? And I go, oh my God, are you kidding me? Like it's something always gives, right?
Yes.
The kids eat hot dogs for two days, or, you kiss the dog and you walk your husband, you mix it all up, right?
You're so
You
fun.
try your best, and that's all anybody can ask.
Yeah. No, I'm very happy to get to know you, Candice. I mean, this has been such a treat for me because, of course, like I said at the top of the show, we all know you. Hello, we know you, right? We think we know you. We think we know what it is. We think we know what the lifestyle is like. We make our assumptions. And it's, number one, always fun to find out that people that you see that have a persona, that it's real. And so you're clearly very real. And I think that you share shared a lot of really good information here. And then, like you said, a 25-year overnight success. It's I love it. I think that's going to be the show title. I'm just saying. Because it really takes somebody with your experience and your level of success, okay, I believe, for the rest of us out there to understand that it isn't just a matter of it happens. It starts from your education and the work experience that you had, and then to putting that, making that photograph and submitting it for the newspaper or the article, the magazine, whatever it was, and then making quality decisions all the way through, knowing when it's okay to say no when you know it's no, saying right and yes, and jumping on even though you're just getting married, and having an agreement with your husband. How can we make it work with a new marriage? And everything else. I mean, it's an overnight success that's been really very thought out and planned and worked very hard for. I can hear that, and I admire you a lot. I think it's really awesome what you've created. Good for you. And you really a person still through it all. I can hear that.
A little red wine helps too.
That's awesome. Oh man.
Is it too early to have one now? Oh yes.
Oh, man. Well, I have to tell you what. So everybody can find all of your platforms through CandiceOlson.com, correct? I mean, I know that, right? We can see your rooms. We can see all your products. We can see the Curated Kravet even there, all at CandiceOlson.com. Is there any other thing that we should know?
It's all there. All of our social media links as well, which is lots of fun. We try to announce what's new and upcoming on our social media platforms, and inject a little bit of the personal side as well, because everybody wants to see what I'm up to and where how the Spanx are working out or not.
You're too funny. Oh man. Well, I really do thank you. I absolutely know that the audience is going to love having gotten to know the inside of you here and the backside of the story and everything. Thanks so much, Candice, for sharing your time with me today.
Oh, Luann, it's been my pleasure.
What'd I tell you, right? She's just so fun, right? And I just laugh. I still laughed out loud when I listened to this again. Walk the husband, kiss the dog. Great conversation with a heck of a #smart lady. Let's talk about some of the takeaways. As you heard from Candice herself, her so-called 25-year overnight success, right? Now, you've heard me say that many times over the years since I first met Candice, always attributing it to her, right? It's never an overnight success. It's always all of the years that go into it, right? And it's not ever just luck, right? She started out as an overworked and underpaid interior designer, like many of you, and this all is part of the secret sauce that helps you and her become the successful person that you grow into. And if we're talking about, tough things and hard decisions and, the roads along the way, how about turning down HGTV because she knew it wasn't the right choice for her at the time, right? She said the heart of everything is quality interior design, not the entertainment of it. But think about how hard that must have been, having one of the biggest television channels reach out, knowing that what they were proposing doesn't feel right with you, does not jive with your inner voice, right? Candice knew her voice and her value, and she had a clear vision of what she wanted, and that was all she needed to make her decision. She never lost the center of what's really important to her, both personally and professionally, and that, my friends, I think is one of the best lessons and the most valuable lessons that we can take away from the conversation with Candice. And, just think on it. What is your inner voice telling you? You already know the answer. You just have to have the courage to listen to it and then act on it. Okay? So I loved this conversation with Candice. I loved listening to it over again. I hope you enjoyed it. All right? So going into 2023, I hope your new year is filled with love, health, happiness, success, all the things. Thank you. Thank you. Decide to be excellent. Thank you for joining me today. This podcast is a production of Luann Nigara, Inc. If you want to know more about me, my books, or Luann University, go to luannnigara.com. And if you are interested in having Window Works help you with your next window treatment or awning project in the New York, New Jersey metro area, go to windowworksnj.com to learn more. Have an excellent day.